Welcome back to the Shacknews Awards. We are going to be a little surprising here because it's the biggest surprise of the year 2024. And we have some nominees to go over. First, Xbox goes multi-platform.
Question mark?
Yep.
Yay.
Number 2, Balatro takes over the world and destroys all of my free time. Was that surprising? Yes, it was. I was skeptical of the game at first because I was like, is this a gambling game or is this a poker game? And I was like, oh, it's not poker at all. Like,
An
okay.
amazing game.
Yeah, I just didn't, just looking at it at first, TJ, I didn't understand what I was looking at. And then I read your review and then I played it and I was like, my God, this is one of my favorite games of all time. So yeah, I don't think you can tell the story of 2024 in video games without mentioning that game. And then another Microsoft adjacent story, Tango Gameworks is shut down until it isn't. And now for the Nintendo portion of the biggest surprise award. Nintendo Music just drops on a Wednesday afternoon via tweet and a YouTube video. It's an app where you can just listen to Nintendo music. It's great. We'll go into detail here, but let's get through these nominees. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom was a surprise. No one thought we were getting a Zelda game this close to Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
And also to have Zelda as the protagonist is a surprise and cool. And then last but not least, Nintendo enters the wonderful world of alarm clock building with Nintendo Sound Clock Alarmo, powered by Nintendo Switch Online. Because clocks never had a subscription service attached to them until now. Clocks as a service. Really revolutionizing the game, Nintendo. This was definitely a year 8 move by Nintendo for their console. So yeah. Are we really going to give an award to Xbox for Microsoft remembering they're a software company? Is that what this one?
It is.
No, because
surprising.
they say like last year that they're not, like they're kind of, they said something like if we're gonna get away from exclusives or that's not their priority anymore. So like this, we saw this coming. I think in general.
No,
I don't think that's true.
You
Greg,
saw
you're
it
wrong.
coming. Xbox games on PlayStation 5. You did not see that coming. Get out of here.
Yeah, I mean that announcement kind of came out of nowhere, right? There was a report originally that they're gonna bring Sea of Thieves and a few other like Xbox exclusives to PlayStation, and people were debating if it was real or not. Then they actually
literally
They did it
earlier this year, Greg. Earlier this year, on a very awkward, stupid podcast, they stated, and I mean Phil Spencer stated, that Indiana Jones would not release on PlayStation. And then 5 months later, they had Jeff Keighley announce that Indiana Jones would release on PlayStation 5.
Surprise!
So that happened this year. That's not something that we went into this year knowing was going to happen. That is incorrect. What we saw happen was they said one thing and then they did another.
And
Isn't everything on PC though too,
might
right? Everything they release on
impact,
Xbox
like,
goes to
the
PC, right?
Yeah,
Like, it's
Microsoft
not-
owns
Windows.
85% of the PC market, Greg. That's
Yeah.
not a surprise
And then-
that they're going to support Game Pass PC.
And then Sony
That's
does
not
it,
what
but
this
with
is about.
right.
Going multi-platform is a big deal for Microsoft because it means one thing to me: Xbox is selling like dog shit.
It is.
They haven't even told us how many Series X's they've sold. It's been 4 years. We don't know. How do we not know how many Xboxes have been sold?
Because it's bad. The number's bad.
It's
they never,
really fucking bad,
They
man.
never show the number.
We're porting Pentiment to Switch bad. That's how bad things are getting for Microsoft. We're porting Indiana Jones, this thing that we bought for billions of dollars. We're porting it to PS5 because we suck at making a platform that actually makes money. And it's like, yeah, that's the surprise here. I do think it's deserving of a biggest surprise. But yes, I did see it coming because this is Microsoft. They're a software company.
That install base for
selling
PS5
software.
and for
It's what
PS4
they
and
do
5
well.
is huge. Like, but yeah.
Yeah, there's 50 million. There's
Yeah.
60 million PS5s out there in the world. I can tell you that because Sony discloses it. There's 146 million Switches out there. I can tell you that because Sony discloses it. Gee, the second or third largest company in the world can't tell us how many units of their hardware they've sold. That's strange, considering they're so analytically driven. But
And
it's
in
like,
terms of these nominees, the one that's going to probably have the biggest tail would be this Xbox one, because we don't know what this will mean for the company and even the brand is Xbox, which love it, hate it. Competition is important in the sphere, and if it just fades away into the background like Dreamcast did, like, what are we going to do?
Or
it's just wild
Is
to
that
me,
good?
though,
Is that bad?
that, like, we make this argument that, oh, it's competition. They're the third largest company on earth, and they have a little company in Japan running circles around them with a Tegra from 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Like, something drastically needs to change at Microsoft. It's if you want that Xbox brand to survive, Sam.
Yeah.
Something has to drastically change. Because right now, they talk about Game Pass more than they talk about Xbox. They kind of cut off the Xbox part of Game Pass.
Ooh, we'll have more to say about Xbox in the later nominee.
Yep. So anyway, Balatro. Who's been playing this? Who's addicted?
I played it for the first time last night.
You get what I'm saying? What I've been saying all year, right?
Now I do think it's a very valid biggest surprise nomination. Unfortunately, it's not a big surprise to me because I've just been hearing you guys talk about it for the entirety of the year about how addictive it is, and then I was like, well, that's exactly what was explained to me, and it is that. But I will say, I don't know, like, you know, I trust the opinions of my colleagues, but we hear people talk things up every day about how this is great and you're gonna love this, and like sometimes it lands and sometimes it doesn't. So I was a little surprised at how much this landed. Yeah, it's you blink your eyes and 45 minutes are gone.
I mean, it's a surprise in the sense that I think coming into 2024, nobody was like,
Yeah.
Balatro was, you know, a game to watch. And now
We
it's
need
gonna
a
end up being-
roguelike poker-based game
Yeah.
with random other card building mechanics. Like, we need this weird ass loop of gameplay. No one was like, this is what needs to be made in 2024. This is what the people crave in 2024. No one thought that.
We always do our like forward-looking feature, right? In January, we're like, here's everything, you know, big that we're looking forward to. And nobody was like, I got my eyes on Balatro, you know, and now it's going to be in the Game of the Year conversation. So
Yeah.
I think
It reminds
that's
me
the
of
other thing is like, this is a game where like, if you don't know what it is, you're like, what? Why is this in the Game of the Year? What is this doing sitting alongside things like Astrobot? And then you play it and you're like, oh, okay, now I understand.
It reminds me a lot of the Vampire Survivors when that came out, because everyone was like, it had this generic name, it had this very like simplistic, like not simplistic, just this really like old school art style. Like, okay, and then like you play it and you're like, 45 minutes has passed. Here's the game. It's amazing. Like, it's incredible. And those devs took it off. Like, it's like, but it's this year instead of last year, which is amazing.
No, I agree completely, Greg. It is very similar in a lot of ways to Vampire Survivors. The virality of it, and also the small team aspect, right? Very small teams made both of these games.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a testament to what makes this industry great, that this game can become such a big story this year.
Seeing it at the Game Awards, like being nominated over games that cost hundreds of millions of dollars is wild. Like, that's just wild to me.
Because it's fun.
Yeah.
It's so important to make a game fun. But yeah, just kudos to Local Thunk. Really, really happy for him. He's had an amazing year. And maybe he'll have even another award after this deliberation is over. But yeah, anyone want to talk about what happened with Tango and where it is now? Yeah, go for it.
One of the biggest things that stood out to me this year is like, we've had so many layoffs.
Yeah.
So many studios shut down, and like Tango, from everything it looked like, was going to be one of them after it just put out one of the best games of 2023.
After they were praised like vociferously by like Phil Spencer and Xbox brass, and they were like, "Oh man, we love Hi-Fi Rush. That game's great. I wish we have more games like Hi-Fi Rush." And then they shut down the studio like 2 months later.
You know, they were really quick to say 20 million people have played Hi-Fi Rush. Remember that?
And like that word going around that like, without Shinji Mikami, what is Tango Gameworks? Shinji Mikami had like an advisory role on Hi-Fi Rush, and that's about it. Because Shinji Mikami is a mentor, and that's how he leads. He brings people up with him, and those are the people he left in charge of Tango Gameworks. And like he left that studio in good hands, and for Xbox to just be like, no, without Shinji, we don't need it, is so short-sighted.
Well, it's not just they didn't just shutter Tango Gameworks; they shut down all of ZeniMax Japan, which was their PR division for Fallout 76 over there. Like a lot of their relationships with Japanese gamers, they just cut off entirely. And if you listen to them in the past, like David, they've always talked about trying to penetrate Japan and like how Japan is this area that they really focus on, because I think that's the only reason Series S even exists, is it can fit in most Japanese people's living rooms. But like,
and the that revision to the original Xbox Duke controller, right? Like they've done so much to try to get into that market.
And then for them to just shutter an entire division that they acquired as part of that multi-billion-dollar deal for ZeniMax shows how short-sighted they are, because Hi-Fi Rush is a categorically good video game, and it did well by all standards. It reviewed well, it got people on the Game Pass. Like, what they did at Microsoft is it's almost an indictment of their business model more than it says anything about the people who work at Tango Gameworks. I think that's what we saw here. And then for them to realize, whoops, it's actually worth something. And for I think it was NetEase came in and acquired.
No, it was Crafton. It was the
Crafton.
It was
the
parent company of PUBG.
Yeah,
That's
the
other
PUBG
half of the surprise nominee.
The other, Crafton. Crafton came in and said there is value here. So Microsoft thinking, oh, numbers on a spreadsheet, let's take this as a capital loss against, I don't know, one of our many gains off of something else. Like, someone was like, no, this isn't worthless. And I think that's the inspirational message of this, TJ, is that like the suits making these decisions right now that are pissing people off and are hurting game studios, they're being proven wrong. And the people who, I don't know, value talent over time are going to be rewarded. And I think we're at the point now, like we are definitely in the trough when it comes to layoffs in media industry, but also in the video games industry specifically, and seeing studios shut down, all sorts of stuff. I think it's nice to see that somebody saw value in Tango, and that they said that, hey, if you worked there and you haven't found a job yet, like you can come back. Like I thought that was a cool message.
Yep. And like with so many layoffs happening this year, it's nice that like somebody got out of there with a happy story of just like getting to continue to do what they do, because Tango Gameworks deserves that opportunity to keep making games.
Mm-hmm. And just not another Evil Within, please. We're good.
There's a good chance that when Hi-Fi Rush 2 comes out, it's going to do a lot better than it would have otherwise, because now there's buzz behind this. Now there's people now it's on people's radars, and it's like, okay, if that first game is so good that it caused all of this, what's the second game going to be? So, good on them. I hope that sequel does really well.
To Austin's point,
on Switch too.
It's happening it's happening slowly. It's happening way slower than it should. But like it's people who make games. IP is great, but unless you have good people, talented people making the games and designing the games, no one's gonna care. You get a Suicide Squad. You know what I mean? Like that's a AAA IP, Batman IP, and the terrible game. Like you have to respect the people making the games. You have to. But suits don't see that. Like Austin said, they just see numbers. This number too high, go lower. It needs to be lower. Like that's all they see.
But also like the value of keeping a team together for a long time, right? The collaborative effort that you get out of a team that's been together for 5 or 10 years. When you break them up and then you keep the IP, you get soulless garbage like Gears 5. And
that's why
Halo
From Software games are so
Infinite.
good.
Yes. And that's why Nintendo games are so good.
Yeah.
Like and like you go across the board, like
it's why it was so sad to hear that the Prince of Persia Lost Crown team got disbanded.
Exactly. But they may come together to make one of the greatest Rayman games of all time, so I'm holding out hope, Ozzy. Like there's still a potential redemption for that. Because they did say that they're working on Rayman IP again, which hallelujah.
Yeah, slight tangent. I hope that they got put on the Sands of Time remake. Because they clearly know what they're doing, but I don't want to get off the tangent.
Yeah, man. There's been radio silence on that game for a bit. So yeah, let's move on. Nintendo music. I love this thing. It's
out of nowhere.
I mean, we were in like a business call talking about completely other stuff, and I was like, "Did you guys see that Nintendo dropped a like music app, like their own Spotify, which still feels very strange, given their history of how they treat their own IP and how YouTube has become the home to listen to old Nintendo songs and whatnot."
But also, like, cutting off so many content creators, like, by creating that extend to 60-minute option.
Yeah.
Like, how many YouTube channels are just that?
A lot.
I mean,
3
we've
hours
even
of-
done it. Like,
no.
hey, if you want to hear the F-Zero music for 20 minutes, the menu music, I got you covered. You want to hear... I thought it was really funny because in the trailer, they show the Pikmin menu theme, and that's one of the ones that we did on our YouTube channel. And I was like, yep, that's one right there. I could 60-minute the so many different Animal Crossing songs you could play for 60 minutes. Just the amount of, like, I understand people are upset about the library on there and how they're kind of doing the drip drop thing that they did with Switch Online, but like the amount of music that's already on there is pretty staggering. Mm-hmm. 4 hours of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe music, all the songs from Ocarina of Time, all the songs from Star Fox 64 and F-Zero X, and like not just longer songs, like character songs. Like when you're talking to a character in Zelda that you can like search by that character and find their song in that app is just really cool, because some of these songs are like 5 seconds long, and that would not make for good iTunes content. That would not make good like YouTube content. Yeah. But on that app, it feels perfectly fine. And that's what I think's cool about them. Most companies could not pull this off. And I think Nintendo just has that much amazing music in their catalog that they can do this. And yeah, a total surprise. Very strange announcement. Kind of like everything they've announced this year, Don. It's been weird. It's been weird at 6 p.m. and via tweet. Or it's like during the earnings report and Furukawa tweets or something, like at 3 a.m. But they're not... Outside of this Zelda game that we're going to talk about here, like they're not doing directs to announce these things. They're just kind of one-off trailers.
I can check and see what time they announce these things on my Nintendo alarm clock.
Oh God! Exclusive announcements on the alarm clock only. That's the first to hear. You stay by that alarm clock all day.
Please no. The Shack Together ticker is going to be modded to be displayed on the Alarmo clock. So yeah. Before we get to Alarmo, because obviously Ozzy wants to talk about that, is very surprising. Zelda. Guys, this Echoes of Wisdom game, it's good, right?
It's a good game.
We're going to get to this with best online presentation, but that June Nintendo Direct was so packed with stuff that we didn't know was coming. And then suddenly out of nowhere, it's like, it's a 2D Zelda game? What's going on? And then it's like, you get to be Zelda? Like, oh my God. And then it's like, oh, and it's out in 3 months. Sorry, what?
As in the Legend of? The same.
Like, we're coming off Tears of the Kingdom, which had like a 7-8 year hype cycle. And it's like Echoes of Wisdom got like announced, shown off, released in 3 months. Mm-hmm. So just out of nowhere, especially compared to what we expected from last time.
And it's like the game itself, I feel, is full of surprises. Like the gameplay loop, the emergent gameplay that happens there, the interaction of all those systems, like the stuff that made Breath of the Wild great and all those clips, go viral. All of that's present in Echoes of Wisdom, in obviously a different way. But the return of actual Zelda dungeons, with quality of life improvements, it does a lot really well. And it's something that I've always wanted. So, like, I've been saying it for a long time, especially the Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom Zelda. Like, that character is a badass. This feels like a bit of an origin story for Zelda, too, because, like, she doesn't know who Link is. Like, she's like, who? Who's Link? She's like, the guy whose hood I have?
Continuation of Link's Awakening, of like that Link. And, like... Mm-hmm.
Sorry, whose name's on the poster? Not Link's. That's not... Who is that guy?
Yeah, the wanted poster.
I guess in canon, Link had just gotten back from the island or whatever.
He survived. He floated back home on the wreckage.
But also they say he doesn't talk because he was affected by the rift.
Yeah, there's a lore reason for why he doesn't talk.
No.
Well, the thing is, in past games, he did talk. You just didn't hear him. You have characters say like, "What? What do you mean? I'm, blah 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 blah."
Yeah, they never showed you what he was saying. He would just be like,
"Yeah."
He like put his hands out and act like he's talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, this actually they explained why he was mute, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't. That's a minor spoiler, but it's just a little touch of the delightful surprises in that game, like Conde. But yeah, I just want to show some love to the Zelda franchise because apparently other award shows are not feeling it.
That is weird. That is really, to me, that's very weird. That is weird.
Whatever. Moving on. Clocks. That's really what this award is about.
I mean,
what was it? October 9th? Like, what day was this? Like, some random day in October? They just announced an alarm clock?
Like, Nintendo's just
hardware
like,
in 2024.
Now.
Because everyone's like, big Switch 2 announcement coming in October, bros. Big Switch 2. All the YouTubers and all the influencers and all the insiders in our industry are like, big hardware announcement from Nintendo. And Nintendo's like, watch. We're going to drop a clock on them.
They could have trolled harder, been like, we have a hardware announcement coming up. Oh my God, here it is. This is it.
This is a cool product, though, because this is like very much so another Satoru Iwata project. Like, this is something that they had been working on for over a decade at Nintendo. Quality of life experience, a health-based experience, but also like they must be seeing all of us goblins playing Switch till like 5 a.m. and they're like, we need these people to sleep better. But what a weird product, but very Nintendo, especially coming out around the same time as their Nintendo Museum was revealed, like, and opened up to the public, like, just reminding us that they make random things and they do it because they think it doesn't exist and they want to do it.
That's why I think this isn't a surprise to me. They've always kind of done this sort of thing. I mean, the Game & Watch was kind of weird for its day. They made that Vitality sensor that never shipped, but they still made it. They made a Wii fitness board. They've always kind of thought outside the video game box for a lot of this stuff. So this wasn't really a surprise for me. Maybe the form, but like they've always done this, I would say.
I predicted something like this would happen. I was like, Nintendo's going to release something like weird, like not a normal product.
We were due to hear back from Weird Nintendo.
We were overdue.
That's what it's called internally. That's their department.
It had been years since we had Labo, and by the way, one of the people who worked on Labo worked on Alarmo. So it's like that group, that division of Nintendo developers, they just get to make random things and throw it at the wall, and sometimes they stick. This thing stuck, man. It sold out instantly in Japan. It sold out twice in
oh yeah, it did. It's very hard to find.
New York.
Yeah, it was hard to find.
I really think it's interesting. Like, the surprising part to me was that you were ordering it directly from Nintendo using your Nintendo Switch Online account, and I think that was really more surprising than anything. It wasn't just like, and it's available at Best Buy and GameStop and all. No, Nintendo's like, this is a way for us to now experiment with our sales channel ahead of Switch 2's launch. Because I guarantee they're going to do the same thing to prevent scalpers. If you have to have a Switch Online account to pre-order the Switch 2 for a certain period of time, it just wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, I think
it sold out so fast at Nintendo New York. Like, it was gone.
I think that's the surprising part, David. It's not that Nintendo made something weird. It's that weird Nintendo thing sold well. And like, I was talking to my friends who live in Japan, and like Adam and Ria, and like Ria does not play video games really. Like, she's, a fan of the brands or whatever, but she doesn't really sit down and play games. She told her husband, like, we need to buy this thing. And she, like, instantly. She's the one who told him about it. So it's like, people who are not hardcore gamers are like intrigued by this product more than I would say the average like games media journalist member would be.
You could go back to the Wii with that though, right? Like, a ton of people who didn't play video games still bought, and they had a Wii from Wii Sports. They got like the Wii fitness board, right? Like that was their peripheral for the Wii.
Didn't like Wii balance board outsell like several PlayStations? Like, it's one of the best selling accessories of all time. It sold over 100 million units. I can't remember which one it outsold, but it's like it is one of the best selling video game accessories, and it was embarrassing because it told me I was fat, and I was like, you made me this way, Nintendo. But now it's like, here's an alarm clock to remind you that you sleep like shit too, Asif. I'm like, thanks Nintendo. Well, I will unbox that shit if they ever put F-Zero music on it, but that's just another thing that they're drip dropping onto. This is like, I don't know. Anyway, I think the surprising part of that story, in my opinion, is how well it has sold.
Sure.
But yeah, those are the nominees for this category. I figure we should probably start voting. What do you guys think? Unless anyone has anything else they want to add about alarm clocks and.
I just wish they'd hurry up and start drip dropping some more themes because I like
they
what
will.
I got.
They got the foundation set. That's what they do. They build the foundation and they build on top of it.
Mm-hmm. I'll start with you, David.
I got to go Nintendo Music. It's just such a rich set of songs. To your point, Asif, not only can you listen to the Animal Crossing New Horizons soundtrack, you've got the regular day songs in there, day and night, but you've also got Rainy Day, Snow Day, like all this stuff, as you said, that wouldn't show up on an album in the store. It's all on there. I love that thing, and I'm so surprised it exists.
And that it's like everyone's like, oh, I've had boss battle music on YouTube forever. I'm like, but it was not isolated.
Right.
You still had sound effects of the game over whatever boss song.
Mm-hmm.
These are isolated tracks. And that, I think, is really a valuable thing about it that I enjoy.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's a good vote. Donovan.
I'm going to vote Balatro.
Mm-hmm. Someday we'll figure out how to pronounce it, too. Denny.
I think I'm a lean towards Nintendo Music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's definitely added some good stuff to my afternoons.
Yeah, dude. The F-Zero soundtrack, F-Zero X on there is dangerous for me. It's funny because that released last week and then Kendrick dropped, so like I haven't. I posted on Cortex. I'm like, what a miss by Nintendo Music not getting the Kendrick album at launch, but that would have been great. I'll wait to vote. Greg.
I gotta go with Balatro.
Mm-hmm. TJ.
I'm gonna go with Tango. I'm an extremely petty person, and I can't wait for the next reveal of their next game, and Phil Spencer sitting at home watching it, having to look at what he gave away.
Well, he tried to kill it entirely.
I doubt someone like Phil Spencer cares.
Like
at this point.
even like, and it would be the perfect cherry on top if it was a PlayStation PC exclusive.
Yeah,
that is petty. I love that.
Let's see what happens. I like that prediction though. We're gonna have to put a pin in that prediction and come back to it in a year. Okay, solid vote. Ozzy.
I'm also gonna go Tango just because we get so discouraged by these stories of studio closures, and you rarely see one get rescued in this fashion.
Yep.
So I'm encouraged by it. It's a feel good story in a year where there aren't many of those. So yeah, I'll go Tango.
Okay. Sam? Or sorry. Sam?
Oh, I mean, Bill, do you want to...
Bill, sorry, Bill.
Okay.
I have my spreadsheet.
I'm going to go with Nintendo Music.
Okay. Okay, then Sam.
Okay. I'm never really surprised when an indie game pops off, so I can't in good conscience go there. And as much as I find the Xbox multiplat the most surprising thing, it brings no joy to my heart, but Nintendo Music does. So I got to go Nintendo Music.
Okay. Steve.
I'm going to shock nobody. Nintendo Music.
Okay, so we got... Sorry, my... Ozzy, you were Tango. Sam, you were...
Nintendo Music.
Okay, sorry. And Bill, what were you?
I was Nintendo Music.
Okay. Sorry, Steve. My spreadsheet had to reload.
That's
what
fair.
was yours?
I was Nintendo Music.
Okay. I think Nintendo Music won. My biggest surprise of the year. Let's see. Nintendo Music was awfully surprising.
Some positive surprises. This time around,
Yeah.
too, in the mix is nice.
Yeah, and I love Balatro. It's not going to win even if I vote for it. I'll vote for Nintendo Music. It really was surprising. Like, and I think Donovan, you were on the Shack Together podcast the week before, and like we literally were talking about it. Like, why doesn't Nintendo make their soundtracks available to people to purchase or whatever? And then a week later, we got this app. So it was like that was the surprising part for me. I've written to PR about this. Like I've asked them that question before. I'm like, why don't you sell soundtracks, or why don't you like put your soundtracks somewhere? And they've started like, with these like concerts that they're doing, like the Zelda concert and the Splatoon in-game concerts. Like they are celebrating their game music more these days with like symphony orchestras and also in-game events. So maybe this is the beginning of something. I do think Nintendo Music could be just another PR arm for them. So it's like, hey, there's a new Mario Kart game dropping. Here's these Mario Kart tracks. Or hey, here's a new, like if we get Kid Icarus Uprising 2 next year, Ozzy, like they're going to be like, here's Uprising 1 soundtrack. Like I feel like this could be another way for them to promote their games going forward. And I think it's really interesting. But yeah, we got a winner here. One of their missions at Nintendo is to surprise and delight their fans. And I think they did that pretty successfully with Nintendo Music. So congratulations to Doug Bowser and everyone over there at Nintendo. I would love to know who built the app, right? Like a name, like a name of a person. Also, like, this is something that came up when the app was released. Like, I wish they gave better credit to the composers and the arrangers of the music.
Star Fox
it just
scored by
says
Star
copyright
Fox.
Nintendo for everything. And like I pointed out, I screenshotted it. There's literally a song for the credits in Star Fox 64 that is not credited. It's like a song that you literally hear only during the credits, and they couldn't give credit there. So it's like, it just felt kind of like backwards for Nintendo to release this museum that's like this huge celebration of their past, and then they have this cool app and they don't recognize who made the music. That's kind of lame.
Especially because they can be selective when they do recognize their musicians. Like, remember during lockdown, they had the band that composed the Animal Crossing New Horizons theme song to get together. Like, they were all there, they named them, but they don't name anyone on this app. It's just I don't understand their selection process for this at all.
Yeah, so that's the one negative I want to throw out there. And just, hey, Doug Bowser, you can get better, but hey, you did surprise us. So congratulations, Nintendo. You have won the biggest surprise of 2024 here at the Shacknews Awards.
From recent releases to nostalgic classics, more music will be added over time. Enjoy Nintendo Game Music.